Thank you very much.
Hey, it's Kaufman is Alive. I look at comic books new and old. Today, we're looking at some old comics going back 30 years to the Age of Apocalypse as I continue my series, Review the Age of Apocalypse, looking at every single issue from this series. I've already covered issues 1 and 2 from all the other series involved in this, including Factor X, Gambit and the Externals, The Astonishing X-Men, The Amazing X-Men. I've looked at X-Men Chronicles, Excalibur, and the only one I have not looked at yet is Generation Next. And in a lot of ways, I've been saving the best for last. This is the one I've been looking forward to the most, and it's I think it's my favorite one from all the Age of Apocalypse series. We get some artwork by Chris Bachalo here on these covers, and I didn't even notice that these were ever connecting covers before today when I was setting up for this video. I just happened to set these covers right next to each other, and I found out they connected. So obviously I went to go look at issues 3 and 4, and while they don't connect to issues 1 and 2, 3 and 4 do connect together as well. So this was just a really awesome find. I had no idea after all these years that these actually connected. But whoever it was that decided to bring Chris Bachalo on to do this series, to be a part of the X-Men, was a genius. I think his artwork really stands out here. He really made a name for himself doing these two books, Generation Next and Generation X. He'd done some work at DC leading up to this, done some work on Sandman and some Death comics, but you wouldn't expect maybe that kind of style to translate into X-Men, but it does perfectly, in my opinion. Just a really awesome cover here. I love Magneto, the way his eyes are just like these dotted eyes. That's just one of the coolest Magneto looks there. He just looks stone cold. And all the smoke and this awesome castle in the background. There's like little turtles and a ladybug, like a candy cane, a liquor bottle. There's all these little things in the drawing here. There's another candy cane there. I don't know what his deal is with candy canes, but and we get some new characters as well in this book. This character here named Vincent, and Know-It-All down here, who you can barely even tell who she is down there, but that is actually a character on the team. She's kind of like Cerebro in a lot of ways. And her name does say it all. She is a know-it-all. She's kind of the Deus Ex Machina of this book, where if they need something done, they need some information found, she can find it. So, and this is basically kind of a reboot, I guess you might say, of New Mutants, which wasn't a title at this point. We get an awesome splash page to start here with this character Chamber, who became definitely kind of a cult favorite among a lot of X-Men fans. I know he was one of my favorite guys. He's the guy on the cover here where his whole chest cavity is just bursting with all this psionic energy. But here in the Age of Apocalypse, that has not happened to him. He's still got it controlled, and he's got a device on his chest that can shoot it all out of him, and it hasn't blown up in his face. So he's kind of a cool guy. Kind of looks like Gambit, but I like his look a lot. Another awesome double splash page here on this one. I just love all the lines for the trees in the background. That just looks so awesome. We've got Mark Buckingham doing all the inks throughout all of this, and he just does a fantastic job working with Chris Bachalo. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I've never been quite sure if it's like Bacalo or Bacalo or Bachalo. I just call him Chris Bachalo. So this whole concept, Generation Next, it says created by him and Scott Lobdell as well, who's doing the writing. And then we got Steve Buccellato doing the colors with Electric Crown here. And I think the colors look really good in this issue. Some of the best colors in all the Age of Apocalypse books, for sure. But I would like to see like an artist edition of this entire series. I don't know if one has ever been put out, but with the colors taken out, I think this stuff would look really awesome. Some of it does get a little kind of confusing or muddied in some of the colors. So again, I would just like to see the black and white pencils and inks of all of this stuff. But we've got Husk here, who is the sister of Cannonball, and her name's Paige Guthrie, and she's got the power where she can like rip her skin off, and it can create all these different forms and materials out of when she does that. So she can like turn into different metals, or she can turn gaseous, or turn into vapors, or anything. And she's got a kind of a relationship here with Chamber. She's kind of written as a sex pot in this whole series, and I think the writing is pretty good in this series as well. Scott Lobdell does a pretty good job with the dialogue throughout all of this. And as usual, this is a #1 X-Men issue, so of course it's a team having a training session, all fighting each other, so you can get to know all of them and their personalities as they interact, which is exactly what happens here. You see she can like take her skin off and a blade comes out of her hand here. We got Mondo, who is a character that can like absorb things in the ground and different organic materials and fuse into them. I think he can, not just organic materials, but kind of any material that he can touch, he can turn into, is his power. We've got Colossus here, who's the leader of the team, and just a really crazy looking drawing here. I just love the way he draws all the metal arms, all the little segments all over the arms and on the neck there, and just these ridiculous shoulder pad, all the padding everywhere. Not to mention like this dude's skull with his jaw jacked out there. Colossus is just like kneeling on him. And even though it's a training session, it's actually a training session to the death. That's how Colossus wants them all to look at it and fight. And he thinks they're being too soft. So Husk comes from behind and turns into some acid and starts burning through his metal. And finally we get Shadowcat showing up here. She's like popping up through Colossus's shoulder. It's really crazy how he depicts that. But here's Shadowcat, and I think it's kind of interesting. They've kind of flipped her and Paige's hair color in this series too. In the Marvel 616 universe, Paige is a blonde, but here she's kind of got Kitty Pryde's hair color, and Kitty's got a lighter color of hair here. She's also got Wolverine's claws here, I guess because she's Shadowcat, so she's got some cat claws, but I think that's an awesome look. This is, I think, my favorite version of Kitty Pryde. All except for obviously the original, but definitely like once you get past the original Kitty Pryde stories, I think this is a pretty awesome progression of the character here. She's totally badass, and she's with Colossus as well. They're a couple here in this series. But right when she's about to take care of Paige, we see this character's skin show up, and he's got these abyss-like powers. With Abyss being the character we saw back in Amazing X-Men. And I like how we got Chamber behind the log there too. There's just some great drawing all throughout here. There's no wasted space on any of these pages at all. And we get all these new characters. Like I was saying, Abyss from Amazing X-Men was new. Holocaust was a new character. The Bedlam Brothers in Factor X, they were new. There's a couple new minor characters as well, and the Gambit and the Externals. And we get a whole bunch of new characters here in this book, including Vincent, who has not quite shown up yet here. He shows up down at the bottom of this page. He can pretty much turn into any sort of like gas or vapor. Kind of a similar power to what Husk can do, so a little bit redundant. But spoiler alert, he doesn't last very long. He doesn't even last through this series. So, but awesome drawing here of Skin, who I kind of like this team's Nightcrawler in a way. And we've got Know-It-All. She's keeping the time. She calls time on everything. And that's when Magneto shows up. We get the awesome splash page of Magneto. Again, I love this look. Such an awesome drawing. He wants to see Shadowcat and Colossus, and then we get an awesome drawing of this castle, which is their base in the Rockies. And just Magneto's look here, he's like the king, you know, or the Black Knight maybe, is more what he looks like. But he's definitely to be feared. Basically explains the entire plot, everything that we've gone through so far in all the reviews I've done. But this kind of does sum it up pretty well, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. And this is such an awesome drawing of Magneto with Colossus and Kitty Pryde behind him with Bishop. I'll just let you look at that while I read a little bit of this dialogue. And he's talking about Bishop here. He says he claims to be from another reality, a world where 20 years ago a tragedy occurred that fractured all reality across the cosmic continuum. Charles Xavier, whose body I held when he breathed his last, was murdered by his own son, and that death was never meant to be. An entire world is paying the price for that mistake since that day. Nightcrawler and Gambit are bringing me the resources I need to verify Bishop's claim that his existence is a temporal aberration. And it says see Excalibur #1 and Gambit in the Externals #1, which I've already covered both of those issues. And he says, it may very well fall upon you and your charges to acquire the means with which to travel back in time. And Kitty says, so you've said, but Apocalypse had all the Chrono variant mutants killed, specifically to prevent time travel. And he says, yes, all known CVs. And so Know-It-All is going to look up to see if they can find any time-traveling mutants that could exist. And she says that there could be some that haven't been born yet, which could prove useful in the future. So I just love this room, too. There's like some film machines here as well. He's got like these giant gears behind him when he's sitting in the chair. The smoke coming from her cigarette. There's just so much interesting stuff in every panel here. So they're going through all the list of time travelers, and they've all died, and they finally come upon one who Colossus thought was dead, and it turns out to be his sister Illyana. And she confirms that she's still alive. She's a resident of the core in Portland. And it says the likelihood of rescue is 0.000%. So we get the little next issue blurb tease here. It says, like magic, into the heart of the slave pits, be here. And we get this really cool drawing of just skull and bones. And that's it for issue #1. Definitely recommend checking this one out. Now I'll move on to issue #2 here. Again, the same creative team as on issue #1. This time we're going straight into the slave pits. We're with Illyana and her friend immediately. And we get some new characters in this issue as well. Some first appearances from the Sugar Man and his underling Quietus. And just this awesome double splash page of the underground slave pits with these bridges up here. And you can just see like all the little rooms that, assuming there's little children or people in. She says, beware the Sugar Man, shut up if you want to live. And we see this little guy sniffing around up here. So some really creepy stuff. This is like the darkest Age of Apocalypse series, I think, and it delves into some pretty heavy stuff in this issue specifically. Love the color on this one. You just see a silhouette as he's running, snorting towards the kids, but then he goes away and she says he must have picked someone else, and her friend says, that's good. And she says, in a way, but it also means we're still alive. So that's just super sad. Really dark. Then we got Skin going undercover here. He's trying to break into the core, which is where the slave pens are, where Ileana is. And he's got these two blokes who are working for Apocalypse, but they're humans just trying to stay alive by doing Apocalypse's bidding and killing other humans. And Chambers in the back seat with them. They ask him for a light. Of course, you know what happens next. And he gives them a light. And Skin is saying, I hope you didn't burn up their costumes because we're going to need them. I really like this panel of Chambers smoking the cigar here. And again, an awesome hillside. Little clouds of smoke coming out of this beater that they're driving. And here's the core. This is where Ileana is trapped. They keep using computer generation for the moon, which looks kind of out of place in the clouds in the background. I don't like that as much. But we got Colossus and Kitty are going to be breaking in through the outside. And she gets yanked away. And they say the Truder weren't paying attention. Mine now. Colossus says, not hardly under cloak, and then he just smashes through the mountain here. They're able to easily take care of this guy. Then we see this guy named Quietus, and he's got a pretty interesting look. He's this guy on the cover here, shooting Husk. He's got the nuclear reactor tattoo there, and she's acting as a prostitute. So again, some stuff you wouldn't normally see in an X-Men comic. She has him take a drink here, but what he doesn't know is Vincent is actually the drink. And she starts to give him a little bit of attitude. He figures out that she's most likely an assassin, so he just starts to beat her up. It's just really dark. Totally unexpected for an X-Men comic. Got Elvis in the background there on the picture on the wall. He smashes her right into the wall, but again, he pulls the gun on her, but Vincent is inside of him because he was the drink. So they're able to kill him. We get another really cool page. Love all the lines showing the liquid that Vincent, he's like slurping it all up and coming into his human form here. And then they basically just hijack Quietus's body to sneak back into the core here so no one notices them. And they've got Mondo as well walking along with them, blending into the wall in the background. And then Skin shows up here as well to let them know that him and Chamber got in, so they're all inside now as we get to the final page, where again, there's just some really weird stuff happening with these, like, they're basically like demons down in here. He's even got the pitchfork, and they're just like throwing up all over the place on the children and stuff. It's totally wild. And it says, if you can believe it, this was the upbeat positive chapter. Next issue, things get worse. And we see this weird drawing of the Sugar Man here that blends into the panel breaks. That's just conceptually awesome stuff here. I love the artwork in these two issues. I love these classic ads as well. Here's the original Spider-Man animated series Saturday morning on Fox Kids ad. which is pretty timely considering that they've got the new Spider-Man animated series comic that's about to come out, and we got the trade towers in the background as well. That's just wild. Right next to the Stargate ad. That's even creepier. But I'm not going to get into all that. There's plenty of other YouTube videos that will get into the connections between those two things. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. I do post daily comic book reviews, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Go read comics.